April 18, 1997. It was a sunny and warm day in Grand Forks, North Dakota. The sky was blue and clear, the birds were singing, and the flowers were blooming. Beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic scene, there was a hidden danger. A danger that had been building up for months. The plan of wrath already set in motion and was about to unleash its fury on the unsuspecting residents. The Red River of the North, which formed the border between North Dakota and Minnesota, was swollen with melted snow and ice from an unusually harsh winter. The river had been rising steadily for weeks, breaking records and threatening to overflow its banks. The National Weather Service had issued flood warnings and forecasts, but they had underestimated the magnitude of the disaster that was tiptoeing around the corner, with the river already flooding several towns and cities along its course, including Fargo and Moorhead. But Grand Forks and its twin city, East Grand Forks, were in the worst position. They were located at a bend in the river, where it made a sharp turn to the north. This created a bottleneck effect, where the water pressure increased and the flow slowed down. The river also had a flat and wide valley, which made it prone to spreading out over large areas. The people of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks had tried to prepare for the flood by building sandbag dikes along the river with the help of thousands of volunteers, including Air Force personnel from Grand Forks Air Force Base. They had worked tirelessly for days, hoping to protect their homes and businesses from the rising waters, unaware that this won't be a nightmare, rather the only nightmare they'll ever endure. April 19, 1997. The second day came, yet no silver lining in sight. The river level rose to 52 feet, breaking the previous 18-year-old record of 50.2 feet, set in 1979. But that was not the only hole in their shed, as the rain poured harder, with the sandbag dikes that had been built to protect the cities were overwhelmed by the relentless force of the water. The dikes began to leak, erode, and collapse, creating breaches that allowed the floodwaters to pour into the streets and neighborhoods. The residents of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks were shocked and terrified by the sudden invasion of the river. They scrambled to save their belongings and evacuate their homes as the water level rose rapidly. Some people had to be rescued by boats, helicopters, or trucks, as they were trapped by the rising water. Others had to wade through chest-deep water, carrying whatever they could. The authorities declared a state of emergency and ordered a mandatory evacuation of both cities. More than 50,000 people had to leave their homes and businesses behind, not knowing if they would ever return. They sought shelter in nearby towns and cities, such as Crookston, Thief River Falls, and Bemidji in Minnesota, and Devil's Lake and Grand Forks Air Force Base in North Dakota. Some people stayed with relatives or friends, while others slept in schools, churches, or hotels. The flood also disrupted the essential services and infrastructure of the cities. The power was cut off, leaving the cities in darkness. The water treatment plant was flooded, contaminating the drinking water supply. The sewage system was overwhelmed, spilling raw sewage into the river and the streets. The communication lines were damaged, making it difficult to contact loved ones or get information, not to mention the serious threat the flood posed to the health and safety of the people. The floodwaters carried debris, chemicals, and bacteria that could cause infections or diseases. The cold water temperature could cause hypothermia or frostbite. The strong currents could sweep away people or vehicles. The flood also created a fire hazard, as electrical wires or gas lines could spark or explode, ending any hope of the future, dying with them. April 20th, 1997. The worst was yet to come. On this day, the river reached its peak level of 54.35 feet in Grand Forks, breaking the all-time record of 52.8 feet set in 1897. The floodwaters covered 75% of Grand Forks and 95% of East Grand Forks. The dikes that had been holding back the water for days finally gave way, creating massive breaches that flooded the downtown areas of both cities. All hope was drowning along with innocent lives. As if the flood was not enough, a new disaster struck. A fire broke out in downtown Grand Forks, starting from a bakery on South 3rd Street. The fire spread quickly, fueled by natural gas leaks and strong winds. The fire department was unable to reach the scene, as the roads were blocked by water and debris. The fire raged out of control, destroying 11 buildings and 60 apartment units in the historic district of Grand Forks. The flames could be seen for miles, creating a stark contrast with the dark water, a beautiful apocalypse. The fire also threatened to destroy one of the most important landmarks of Grand Forks, the Carnegie Library. The library was built in 1903 with a grant from Andrew Carnegie and housed a valuable collection of books and documents. The library staff and volunteers had tried to save as many books as possible before evacuating, but many were left behind. The fire reached the library and burned its roof and windows, but miraculously spared most of the books inside. Knowledge wasted, for none will be able to gain it now. After an intense struggle for 6 hours, the fire was finally put out, thanks to the efforts of firefighters from nearby towns and cities who came to help. The fire was later called the Fire of the Century by the local media and became a symbol of the devastation caused by the flood. April 21, 1997. The day after the fire, the people of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks faced a grim reality. They had lost their homes, their businesses, their belongings, and their sense of security. They had no idea when they could return to their cities or what they would find when they did. They had to cope with the trauma, the stress, and the uncertainty of their situation. Many people found comfort and support in their families, friends, and communities. They shared their stories, their feelings, and their hopes. They expressed their gratitude for the help they received from strangers and volunteers. They prayed for strength and resilience. Some people also found inspiration and hope in the symbols of survival and recovery that emerged from the disaster. One of these symbols was the American flag that was raised on the remains of the Sorley Bridge, which connected Grand Forks and East Grand Forks. The flag was a gift from a firefighter from Moorhead who had helped fight the fire. He had brought it from his fire station and hoisted it on a pole that he had salvaged from the debris. The flag became a sign of patriotism, unity, and defiance in the face of adversity. Another symbol was the angel statue that was found intact among the rubble of St. Michael's Catholic Church in Grand Forks. The church had been built in 1908 and was one of the oldest and most beautiful buildings in the city. It had been severely damaged by the flood and the fire, but the statue had miraculously survived. The statue was a replica of the famous Pietà by Michelangelo, depicting Mary holding the body of Jesus after his crucifixion. The statue was seen as a sign of faith, hope, and compassion. We see time and time again how important faith in God can be the only source of hope in hopelessness and the only lifeboat we need. April 22, 1997, and beyond the disaster. The floodwaters began to recede slowly, but it would take weeks before they returned to normal levels. The people of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks had to wait patiently until they could go back to their cities and assess the damage. They faced a daunting task of cleaning up, rebuilding, and recovering from the flood. The flood had caused an estimated $3.5 billion in damage in the Red River region, making it one of the most costly natural disasters in U.S. history. In Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, more than 10,000 homes and businesses were damaged or destroyed by the flood and the fire. Many historical buildings and cultural landmarks were lost or severely damaged, such as the Grand Forks Herald Building, the Metropolitan Opera House, and the Masonic Temple. The University of North Dakota campus was also flooded, forcing the cancellation of classes and the relocation of students. The people of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks received an outpouring of support and assistance from across the nation and beyond. They received donations of money, goods, and services from individuals, organizations, corporations, and governments. They also received help from thousands of volunteers who came to help with the cleanup and reconstruction efforts. Among them were former presidents Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush, who visited the cities in May 1997 to show their solidarity and sympathy, empowering the thunderstruck people. The federal government also provided billions of dollars in aid and loans to help the cities recover from the flood. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, also known as FEMA, worked with the cities to buy out more than 800 properties in the floodplain and relocate them to higher ground. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers also worked with the cities to build a permanent flood protection system along the river, consisting of levees, flood walls, pumps, and gates. The system was designed to withstand a 500-year flood event. The cities also used the opportunity to revitalize their downtown areas and create a new vision for their future. They developed a plan called Grand Forks East Grand Forks Greenway, which transformed the former floodplain into a recreational and environmental amenity for the residents and visitors. The plan included several parks, trails, golf courses, campgrounds, and wildlife habitats along the river. The plan also included new commercial and residential developments that incorporated flood-resistant designs and features. The flood of 1997 was a traumatic and tragic event for the people of Grand Forks and East Grand Forks, but it also brought out their resilience and determination. They overcame the challenges and hardships with courage and optimism. They rebuilt their cities with pride and creativity. They turned a disaster into an opportunity for renewal and growth. They proved that they were stronger than the river, and the river may have wiped their cities, but not their spirit. The indomitable human spirit emerged victorious yet again.